We're back with another 2021 rookie profile. Is Tamorrion Terry a heat seeker? Gotta watch and find out. It's Brad from RotoHeat and RookieDraftGuide.com. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already subscribed, let's go ahead and do that now. Don't forget the notification icon, the little bell there, so that you can stay up to date when we go live. We got live streams that are happening weekly. We've got all sorts of great rookie content coming out. If you have already, we thank you guys. Drop a like on it so we can get this thing up to 100 likes. Tell YouTube that you appreciate us. And don't forget, check out RookieDraftGuide.com. All right, every video I toss one out. I want to know, is Terry one of your top 10 rookie fantasy receivers in this draft class? Let us know in the comments below, and let's keep that conversation going. All right, so Terry, the 6'4", 208-pound prospect out of Turner County High School in Ashburn, Georgia, came in with some moderate interest. If you checked out like 247, he was in the just outside the top 20 in his position group and was a four-star prospect, at least by their measurements. He had a lot of different offers. I mean, the SEC was really high on him. Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn. Obviously went with Florida State, which, in the end may not have been the best thing for him because it didn't end well for him with his time with Florida State. But, he went with a school that fit his style, and it showed when he was on the field with the previous coaching staff. It really was kind of the Terry show. His freshman season, got 35 receptions, almost 750 yards, 744 yards, 8 touchdowns. He was averaging over 20 yards a catch. I mean, the offense was really predicated on getting him the ball and letting him make big plays. 2019, even better, almost doubled his production in receptions. He had 60 receptions for 1,188 yards and 9 touchdowns, and got a little involved in the running game. Really wasn't heavily involved, not really his game, his style. And then obviously in 2020 with the new staff and everything changing, didn't go so well. Only played in 6 games, 23 catches, 289 yards, touchdown. I mean, everything was considerably lower. His average, all that stuff. It didn't go very well for him this year. And you could tell, he was in the doghouse with the coaching staff, and there just seemed to be issues between the player and the team, and eventually left the team, and that was just kind of done. As a new staff comes in, they want to start moving in their guys and doing a different direction, and Terry just didn't seem to fit, which was really surprising because he was a really dynamic player with the ball in his hands the previous years, but attitudes between him and the staff just didn't flow well, and he's got to move on. But we did see quite a bit from him in the 2 years we really saw him as a high value piece of this offense. So I think there is a lot to still be taken away from what we do know and what potentially we could see from him at the next level. There is, obviously, he was averaging around 20 yards per reception both years that he was heavily involved in that offense. And I think that really helps you get an idea of what type of receiver this, massive kid is. I mean, 6'4", probably by the time we get to the more combine type, pro day type stuff, probably looking closer to 220-ish, I would guess, and still a very dynamic athlete. So college, first 2 years look good. Things didn't go so well after, but I think we've seen what we needed to see to get an idea of what he could be at the next level. He's going to be an interesting prospect in the class because there's a lot of quality wide receiver talent in this class, and then you get to the point, and this is why I asked if he's one of your top 10, because you get around the 7 to 12 range, and there's some guys that have some things about them, their game, that people like and are really intrigued by, but there's enough red flags, if you will, where the conversation has to be had about kind of where he slots in and how he falls. And these are the types of players where I think draft spot could be critical for how they do fantasy-wise. If they go to a spot that really does accentuate what they're good at, I think it could be really big. I think he could be more of a scheme-dependent type guy, and maybe not so much that as much as fits in with the culture of the team. depending on what you want to believe when it comes to what was said about Terry near the end of his time at Florida State. I mean, attitude came into play, and it may have been, an immaturity. It may have been a lot of things. Obviously, we don't know the answers. We weren't there, so we can only speculate on the different conversations and articles that we find. So I think Terry's one of those guys that the athletic profile, the skill set, the size, speed, combination, all of that will push him into the conversation for being a top 10 wide receiver in this class. Because when you think about some of the guys, you have the top end elite prospects, then you have guys that have a really elite trait, whether it's the big playability of a Waddle, Tony, some of those guys, where you have the size guys, the Seth Williamses of the world. Then you have kind of that next group of guys that have really nice traits in some way, but the red flags are a concern, and Terry's one of those guys. Now, when I look through the evaluator's notes, there's a few guys that have him as one of their top receivers because they love the prospect and they love what kind of value he could return, where he's going to get drafted. But then I also have guys that are on the other end of it where they just see him as kind of a big, deep wide receiver threat and really may not be able to develop, too many drops, things like that. That's kind of the wide range of opinions I'm getting as I look through our notes. So personally speaking, I'm taking a chance on this guy. Coming into 2020, he was still, if you're in the Devy world, he was still highly sought after. He was kind of a bigger name player because he'd really developed nicely between his freshman season and sophomore season. Then all of a sudden things went awry this year. So I want to at least get a couple shares of him and see what happens. He's got the ability, and what he does well is what you can't coach up, his big playability and some of that, the things that he struggles with, some of the drops, and the development of the route tree. Those types of things you can grow, and with good coaching that can be resolved. So, Terry's a guy that I've definitely got circled as a player to try to target because he can do a lot of really nice things with the ball in his hands. He's got that kind of talent to really be somebody who could develop into a nice fantasy asset. But disclaimer, he's a guy that's got enough red flags that have pushed him down conversation. He's got enough red flags that he may go kind of a day 3 draft pick because of it. And you could be stashing a player that it may not mean much in the long scheme of things. So, I want to put that out there just because there's such a differing of opinion. Just across the board with this player, but there's so much that's likable about this player. There's a lot you can really peel away and get excited about from him. Let's keep this conversation going. I asked you, is he one of your top 10 rookie wide receivers? Tell me why in the comments below. Let's go to Discord. Let's go to Facebook. Go to Twitter. Let's keep this conversation moving. As always, we love you guys. Thank you for checking this out. RookieDraftGuide.com, and we'll talk to you again soon.